The crystal chandeliers in the grand ballroom of the Whitaker mansion twinkled like stars trapped in glass, casting golden flecks across the faces of the 50 guests who'd gathered for what my stepfather, Victor Langford, had billed as the proposal of the century. I lingered near the edge of the crowd, my fingers tight around a flute of sparkling wine that tasted like regret. Dressed in the emerald gown my mother had insisted on because Victor demanded perfection in every detail, Victor stood at the center of it all, a tower of polished confidence in his custom tuxedo, his silver hair catching the light just right. The man who'd built Langford Investments into a powerhouse, charming widows and executives alike into handing over their fortunes with a smile and a signature. Beside him, Sophia Reynolds shimmered in a gown that hugged her curves like it was painted on, her dark curls cascading perfectly, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. "Before I pop the question that's been burning in my heart," Victor announced, his voice smooth as aged bourbon, the kind he reserved for sealing deals worth millions. "I want to thank everyone here, the family, the friends, the partners who've made this moment possible." The room hummed with approval. My mother, Elena, dabbed at her eyes with a lace handkerchief, her diamond earrings, Victor's gift, glinting as she beamed. She'd been like this ever since Victor swept into our lives 4 years ago, just 8 months after his wife's sudden passing from a heart condition no one saw coming. Whispers about the timing had circulated, but Victor squashed them with donations to heart research foundations in her name. Victor reached into his breast pocket with a flourish, but his hand came out empty. His polished smile cracked, just a fraction. He patted his other pockets, his movements turning frantic. The murmurs shifted from excitement to unease. "The ring," he muttered, loud enough for the front rows to hear. "It was right here. The one I chose for the love of my life." Sophia's perfectly manicured hand flew to her lips, her eyes widening in stage surprise. Victor's gaze swept the room, landing on me like a spotlight in an interrogation. In that instant, I saw it, not confusion, but a glint of triumph, cold and calculated. "Claire," he said, my name slicing through the air like an accusation. "You were in my home office this afternoon." Head swiveled, eyes narrowing, judgments forming in whispers. I set my glass down carefully, my voice steady despite the knot twisting in my gut. "I was dropping off the investment summaries you asked me to proofread, Victor. That's all." The ring was in the top drawer, he pressed, his tone rising, drawing the crowd into his drama. "The $85,000 diamond I selected for Sophia, the woman who's brought light back into my world." "Victor, I wouldn't." "You've never accepted this," he interrupted, stepping closer, the guests parting like they sensed the explosion coming. "You've resented me from the start. Resented your mother's happiness. The stability I've given this family after your father's mess." Elena's voice wavered from the side. "Claire, honey, if you have it, just say so. We can fix this." The plea in her words stung worse than any slap. Her doubt, her choice already made. "I didn't touch anything," I insisted, but the room was turning, the air thick with suspicion. Victor was inches away now, his cologne, a sharp, expensive blend of sandalwood and power, overwhelming. The man who'd vowed at their wedding to be the father I'd lost when Dad bailed for California with his assistant, leaving us in ruins. What a hollow promise that had turned out to be. "You're 32, Claire," he snarled, loud enough for every ear. "Still crashing on your mother's generosity. Scraping by in that dead-end auditing job, watching us thrive while you wallow in envy. And now this petty sabotage. That's not." The slap landed sharp and sudden, his palm cracking against my cheek with a force that jerked my head sideways. The sting bloomed hot, tears pricking my eyes as gasps rippled through the crowd. My wine glass tumbled, shattering into 1,000 glittering shards on the polished oak floor. Someone murmured. "Jesus," another whispered. "Did he just?" Elena stood frozen, her hand hovering uselessly. No step forward, no defense. "Leave," Victor commanded, his voice low and venomous. "Get out of my house before you embarrass us further." I touched my burning cheek, met his eyes, those steel-gray orbs that had always judged me lacking, and whispered, "You have no idea what you've started." "Oh, it's finished," he replied, smoothing his tie as the room watched. "Your mother and I have talked. It's time you fend for yourself, no more handouts." The path to the door stretched eternal, my heels echoing like accusations, whispers trailing me like smoke. As I pushed through the heavy doors, Sophia's voice floated out, quivering with drama. "The ring doesn't matter, Victor. We have our love." Applause erupted, sealing my exile. I drove away from the mansion that had once been home, the bruise throbbing in rhythm with my heartbeat, convinced Victor had engineered my downfall. But why? What secret was worth this public execution? The mark on my cheek turned purple by morning, a vivid reminder as I paced my tiny Brooklyn apartment, the city noise a distant hum against my racing thoughts. 3 nights of insomnia had me dissecting every moment leading to this. I'd been 14 when Dad left, his affair exploding our family like a grenade. Mom drowned in grief and Cabernet for 18 months until Victor Langford appeared at a gala fundraiser. All charisma and checkbook philanthropy. He wooed her methodically, weekend getaways to the Hamptons, seats on charity boards, a trust fund revamp that promised security. They married in 9 months. By year 2, she'd granted him control over her finances for efficiency. I'd tried to belong in his world, attending his investor dinners, nodding through talks of hedge funds and yields. I'd even taken the junior auditor role at Finley and Associates because Victor said it showed initiative. But his approval was always laced with condescension. "Claire's still searching for her path," he'd quipped to his cronies, implying I was a lost cause at family gatherings. The red flags had piled up subtly. Victor consolidating Mom's assets into joint holdings for tax benefits, naming himself executor of her estate, phasing out her old circle for his elite network of venture capitalists and trophy wives. Then Sophia arrived, 29, with a finance degree from Stanford and a smile that could close deals. Victor met her at a Miami summit mere weeks after his wife's death, too soon, but he spun it as fate healing his wounds. Sophia's digs were sharper when Victor wasn't listening. "It must sting, seeing your mom so fulfilled while you're figuring things out," she'd say with faux sympathy at Thanksgiving. Or, "Once we're official, we'll handle Elena's care. You won't have to hover anymore." The message, I was excess baggage in their polished life. Victor's words from a cocktail party 6 months back echoed now. "Your issue, Claire, is entitlement. You expect handouts without earning them. Your mother spoiled you rotten." I'd brushed it off as his usual cruelty, but staring at my reflection, the swelling distorting my features, I wondered if it was a veiled threat. The proposal disaster reeked of setup. Victor was too precise to misplace an $85,000 bauble. He wanted me isolated, disgraced. Why escalate now? What was looming that demanded my removal? My phone pinged, an anonymous text. "Langford's not the savior he pretends." That rings a smokescreen. Dig into Langford Investments Q3 filings. An ally. My breath caught. Someone else smelled the rot. I fired up my laptop, navigating to the firm's investor portal. Password locked. But I recalled Victor's casual sharing of access for those summaries last month. Arrogant as ever, he hadn't revoked it. The reports loaded, numbers pristine on the surface, but my auditor's instinct flagged anomalies, transfers funneled through obscure subsidiaries. Returns that didn't add up. This wasn't incompetence, it was deliberate. Victor was hiding something massive. And my humiliation was the diversion. It was time to pull the thread and watch his empire unravel. Aunt Lydia's law office in downtown Manhattan smelled of leather-bound books and strong coffee. Her desk a fortress of case files from 3 decades battling Wall Street sharks. She peered over her bifocals at the printouts I'd brought, her expression sharpening like a blade. Victor Langford doesn't orchestrate meltdowns without an endgame, she said, sipping her espresso. A guy handling billions doesn't lose a ring unless it's theater. You were the villain in his script.
Claire.
We need to uncover the plot. The text pointed to the Q3 reports, I replied, pulling them up on my tablet. But they're encrypted beyond basic access. Lydia's lips curved in that predatory grin that had won her multi-million settlements. Good thing I represent a disgruntled ex-client of Langford's. Pulled their stake last quarter, still have portal creds. Minutes later, we pored over spreadsheets that screamed red flags, outflows disguised as consulting fees, inflows from phantom ventures. This stinks, I muttered. Let's trace that ring. Lydia dialed her contact. Harlan Weiss, owner of the city's premier gem emporium. Harlan. Lydia Thorne. Run a check on an $85,000 engagement ring supposedly bought by Victor Langford. Description: 3-carat solitaire. Platinum band. Yeah. I'll hold. I paced, piecing it, the slap, the exile, the urgency. Harlan called back. Lydia's face tightened. No record? But you flagged a match?
Purchased via
Corporate expense? Send the docs. She hung up,
turning to me.
No personal buy from Victor. But a ring fitting the bill was expensed through Langford Investments' discretionary fund, client reimbursements. The floor tilted. He used investor cash for a proposal prop? Worse, Lydia said, firing up her secure line to a SEC insider. I'm pulling suspicious activity reports on Langford. Hours blurred as I combed files. Lydia on calls. My mind raced. Victor's isolation of Mom. His rush to marry Sophia. The anonymous tipster knew. This was bigger than a bauble. Lydia's phone rang. She listened. Color draining. Confirmed?
Christ.
Thanks.
She met my eyes.
Claire. It's not about the ring. Over 4 months. $15.2 million siphoned from client accounts to offshore shells. 15 million? Nausea hit. Structured transfers, under radar thresholds, labeled as dividends or fees. Ending in Bahamas entities linked to Victor. He's embezzling, I whispered. And accelerating. He's prepping to bolt. Puzzle snapped, the proposal spectacle to paint me jealous thief, discrediting any future accusations. If the fraud surfaced, I'd be suspect numero uno. We need ironclad proof, I said, shifting to strategy. Emails, ledgers, intent. That means hacking his systems. I hesitated. Then, I have backdoor access from those summaries. He never closes loops. Lydia arched a brow. Borderline. But whistleblower statutes shield good faith fraud probes. Credentials worked. Servers opened like a vault. Lydia. This predates the recent spikes. Years of skimming. Fake invoices. Inflated expenses. Ponzi-like reallocations. The ring? A test balloon. Bought with pilfered funds from a widow's trust. Mom agreed to meet at a quiet cafe in Soho, away from Victor's gilded cage. She looked frayed. Her usual poise cracked. Shadows under her eyes. Claire. Darling, she started, reaching across the Formica table. I withdrew. Listen as my mom, not his wife. She bristled. If this is about the party, it's about $15 million. Shock rippled her features. Denial.
Fear.
What? I showed screenshots, transfers, shells, the ring's origin. Victor stealing from clients, framing me as thief to cover his tracks. Her fingers shook scrolling. Impossible. Victor's a genius investor. When did you last review your statements? Your dad's estate, retirement, all under his control. Silence. He loves me, handles everything, controls everything. Big difference. She stood, chair screeching, jealousy talking. You hate our happiness. He assaulted me.
Mom.
You watched. She halted, purse slipping. You pushed him. No theft. Just his setup before fleeing with the haul. Tears fell. I can't. But doubt crept in. Back home. I dug deeper. Victor's emails to Sophia. Move 3M tonight. Bahamas safe. Claire's out. Perfect scapegoat. Another. Elena's assets liquidate post-wedding. She suspects nothing. Rage boiled slow. Building. He wasn't just thief, he was predator. Preying on mom's vulnerability. David Klein, the tipster, revealed himself, a junior analyst at Langford's. Fired for questioning anomalies. We met in a dim bar. Saw the proposal vid online, he said. Knew it was bullshit. Victor's bleeding the firm dry. He handed a USB, more docs, including Victor's flight bookings to non-extradition spots. Sophia's in on it, his accomplice from a prior scam. Pieces locked, their romance a front for laundering. Lydia looped in a judge friend for warrants. We strike at the rescheduled engagement gala Saturday. Expose him live. My cheeks bruise faded, but resolve hardened. Victor's slap? His fatal error. I'd turn his stage into a scaffold. The Langford Gala at the opulent Regency Hotel pulsed with excess, crystal flutes clinking, laughter echoing off marble walls as 200 elites networked under Victor's triumphant banner. Ide transformat, auburnuit.
Contact.
A sleek black suit posing as Lydia's paralegal aide. Victor brushed past me once. No spark of recognition. Steady, Lydia murmured. Her hand on my arm. We've got the net ready. David infiltrated as catering staff. Blending seamlessly, his earpiece linking us. Judge Harlan stood sentinel near the VIPs, ready to intervene. Victor ascended the podium. Sophia radiant beside him. The infamous ring winking under spotlights. Friends, partners, he boomed. Charisma dialed high. After the regrettable disruption last time, fueled by a resentful family member's envy, Sophia and I reclaim our moment. To love. To prosperity. Cheers rose. He toasted, dismissing baseless rumors about Langford's stability, blaming disloyal elements like me. This was our cue. David slipped to the tech booth, overriding the AV. Lights dimmed. The massive screen flickered, not to Victor's slides, but to damning texts. Shift 4M to Bahamas. Clients none wiser.
Zenda, Victor.
Recipient, Sophia. Claire's disgraced. Blame her if audited. Victor's tan paled to ash.
Cut it.
Technical glitch. But the barrage continued. Emails detailing shells. Ledgers showing $15 million vanished. Whispers swelled to outrage. A board member shouted, "What the hell?" Phones lit up, calls to regulators, lawyers. The screen shifted to hidden cam footage, Victor stashing the ring in his safe. Sophia plotting. Slap her hard, sell the jealousy. A gasp tore through, Mrs. Ellison, a key investor, pointed. That's my heirloom ring. Entrusted for liquidation, my husband's surgery fund. Chaos erupted. Security advanced. But furious guests barred them. Sophia bolted, colliding with Lydia, who was already alerting the feds. I shed my disguise, stepping into the light. The $15 million? Frozen. FBI's on your account since dawn. Victor whirled, eyes bulging. You bitch. Learned from you. Victor. Earn what you get. David distributed dossiers. Every fraud. Every lie. Investors swarmed Victor. Sophia screeched deals for leniency. Through the melee, Mom watched from the fringes, face ashen, finally seeing the monster. Judge Harlan's voice thundered. Federal agents en route. Langford. Reynolds, stay put. Victor's kingdom shattered. Handcuffs clicking as agents stormed in. His greatest performance? His downfall. The fallout hit like a market crash. Langford Investments tanked $110 million overnight.
Clients fleeing en masse.
Headline screamed, Empire of Fraud, Langford's $15 million heist. I watched from Lydia's office. Screens blazing with coverage, CNBC dissecting the scam. Local news replaying Victor's cuffed walk of shame. Boards liquidating post-probe, Lydia updated. Victims filing class actions. David, now a whistleblower hero, added. Feds traced another $7 million. Sophia had Swiss nests too. Mom called relentlessly. I ignored. Wounds too raw. The mansion seized, bought with dirty money. She had 48 hours to vacate. Victor's trial loomed, but civil suits piled first. Sophia flipped, exposing his web of cons. Poetic, the master manipulator outplayed by his own greed. I visited Mom at the empty estate. Boxes scattered. She looked broken, staring at the garden where Victor had charmed her. Knew you'd come. Time's up tomorrow. She met my gaze, raw with regret. I sensed the control, the isolation. Ignored it, feared starting over. Tears flowed. When he hit you, I shattered inside. But speaking meant admitting my failure as your mom. Why stay silent? Cowardice. Chose illusion over you. I softened, despite the ache. One account safe, Grandpa's inheritance. Botched transfer. Enough for a restart. She nodded. Prosecutor said you pushed for it. You're still mom, not forgiveness, but a bridge. She testified willingly, her truth cracking Victor's facade further. We packed in quiet, the house echoing ghosts. That night, you stood unbreakable. That's your strength. Claire, not mine, earned it, facing yours. She drove off in her old sedan, the only clean asset. I lingered, watching the sunset claim the property. Victor's monument to avarice. Soon auctioned for restitution. My path. Lydia's firm. Forensic auditing. Talent for unearthing secrets. Born from surviving his. The federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan buzzed with press frenzy. Cameras flashing as Victor entered. Shackled and diminished. His once imposing frame hunched in prison orange. I'd testified days prior, detailing the abuse, the frame-up, the discoveries.
Now.
Victim statements. I approached the stand, voice firm. Victor Langford didn't steal cash, he stole futures. Retirements evaporated, dreams deferred. He eroded my mother's independence, torched my name to shield his sins. But he forgot, power's illusion crumbles under truth. His eyes averted.
Defeated.
The tally, $22 million embezzled across 5 years. 152 victims, pensioners, families, nonprofits duped by his philanthropy mask. Sentence, 28 years. No early parole. Victor crumpled, sobbing as bailiffs hauled him. Sophia drew 16 for her plea. Her love, a calculated grift. Months later, my office at Thorne and Associates overlooked the Hudson. Plaque reading Claire Donovan, head of fraud detection. I'd cracked 4 schemes since, reclaiming $21 million. David launched his boutique firm, safeguarding everyday investors. We met for brews, Toasting scars turned strengths. Mom and I lunched bi-weekly, tentative rebuilds. Therapy for her. A job counseling financial abuse survivors. Her apartment brimmed with pre-Victor photos. Us at Coney Island. My grad cap toss. Estates sold, she shared. Buyers making it a women's shelter. Irony chuckled. Fitting, his greed house now heals. A alert pinged. Another firm probed. Hidden wires to trace. Purpose pulsed, protecting from Victors everywhere. In a deposition for restitution, Victor appeared via video.
Cuffed. Hollow.
The accusation? Staged. Claire was too sharp, needed her neutralized. Destroyed your stepdaughter to guard crimes? Destroyed it all for cash rotting in seized accounts. Final query. Message for Ms. Donovan? He stared. You earn victory. I earned chains. Screen blinked. From victim to victor, I'd forged my voice in his fire. Healing crept slow. Mom's apology at a park bench. Failed you. Choosing fear. Tears mingled. We rebuild. Nodded. Not erased. But forward. Victor's cell? His empire's tomb. My life? Reclaimed. Resonant with justice's echo. Years blurred. But the bruise's ghost lingered, a reminder of the night truth ignited. Langford's scandal became case study in finance courses, a warning on greed's grip. I testified at congressional hearings on investor protections, my story shaping reforms. David and I collaborated on a book, Shadows of Trust, Exposing Fraud's Human Cost. Royalties funded scholarships for abuse survivors' kids. Mom flourished, her nonprofit thriving, speaking at events on reclaiming control. Our bond mended, not seamless, but stronger in fractures. Holidays now, laughter over home-cooked meals. No shadows. Victor's appeals failed. He aged in prison. Letters arriving sporadically, rambling regrets. No absolution sought. One read, underestimated you. That slap? My unraveling. I burned it. Ashes scattering on the wind. A new case landed, a CEO siphoning millions. Echoing Victor. As I pored over files, satisfaction swelled, not vengeance, but vigil. The central question haunted. How far would you go to protect the vulnerable from the powerful? In exposing one man's empire, I'd illuminated paths for many. The proposal slap, meant to silence, had amplified a roar. Priceless, indeed.